Good afternoon, because yet again, I am recording. Oh, it's actually pretty much evening. It's almost 5:30. Anyway, good evening. This video is for pre-algebra, chapter 7, lesson 5, solving two-step inequalities. And as you remember, inequalities look like this, or this, and occasionally like that. Basically, anything that's not an equal sign, that still would be in the place of an equal sign. All right? And so solving two-step inequalities are very similar to solving two-step equations. Very similar. The only thing is you have to remember, just like we did earlier, and when I mean earlier, I mean way back at the beginning of the class, that when you multiply or divide a negative on both sides of the equal sign, or in this case an inequality, well, in this case an inequality sign, because it doesn't really matter if you do it for an equal sign. But anyway, if you multiply or divide by a negative on either side, on both sides of the inequality, flippage is going to happen. This is the word I'm trying to coin myself, because flippage means that when you multiply or divide a negative number on both sides of the inequality flips direction, all right? Flipping the direction of the inequality, all right? So just keep that in mind as we go through. All right, so let's go ahead and do a side-by-side comparison of solving a two-step equation and a two-step inequality. And you'll notice that the only thing the difference between them, is that one's going to have an equal sign and one's going to have an inequality. So we have 2y minus 3 is equal to -5, and we have 2y minus 3 is less than or equal to -5. And I'm going to do them side by side so you can see the comparison. All right, so I'm going to add 3 on both sides, and I'm doing it for the equation and the inequality. The -3 and +3 on the left in both the equation and the inequality annihilate each other. They're gone. And now I'm left with 2y equals -2 on the equation side, and 2y is less than or equal to -2 on the inequality section. All right, now let's go ahead and keep solving for y. We got to get y by itself, so we're going to divide by 2, divide by 2. The 2's annihilate each other in both the equation and the inequality, and we're left with y is equal to -1 and y is less than or equal to -1. And you're like, oh, Miss Teach, this is easy, yay. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. The only thing is eventually they're going to ask you to graph these solutions. So make sure you can do it. When you're graphing an equation and you have y equals -1, y can't be anything other than -1. So when you graph it, it's actually pretty easy. It's just -1, where that green dot is. The only thing is with inequalities, y is less than or equal to -1, which means y could be a ton of numbers. Could be millions of numbers. It actually is almost an infinite number of numbers, as long as the numbers are less than -1. Y is less than or equal to -1. It could actually be -1 because of that or equal part, okay? And you can plug it in and check and make sure it's right. Now, for graphing though, that's the graphical solution. If we do the graphing for the inequality, it looks very similar. We still have a point on -1, but y could also be anything less than -1. So we have to show, using an arrow, all of the numbers that are less than -1. Well, there they are. Everything smaller than -1. It could be -2, -3, -4, -5, -10, -15, -4 billion. Those are all possible answers for this solution. Okay, so that's the graphical solution for an inequality. All right, you guys got that? You guys see the difference between them? Okay, so let's go ahead and give us a flippage example. All right, flippage. We have -2m plus 4 is less than or equal to 34. All right, same way we did before. I'm going to make a little table. I'm going to add or subtract 4 on both sides because it's the opposite of adding 4. Then we're going to annihilate them. We're going to -4 from 34 and get 30, so we're left with -2m is less than or equal to 30. All right, we're going to divide by -2, divide by -2. The -2 multiplied by m, the -2 divide, and then divide by -2, cancel each other out, like that. They annihilate. And this is the moment of flippage, because I have divided by -2 on both sides of the equal sign. Notice how they both have a -2. And I have this absolute value right there. This is the moment of flippage. That's where the less than or equal to becomes a greater than or equal to. right there. See that flippage? Right there. That's the moment it happens. So you guys got to remember, if you ever have a multiply or divide by negative, anything, when you're dealing with the inequality, it's time to do flippage. It's time to flip the direction of that inequality. All right, and if I'm graphing again, I have m is greater than or equal to negative 15, so I have a dot on negative 15, and it represents all the numbers that are greater than 15. Okay, greater than negative 15 would be any number bigger, so anything to the right. All right, because negative 14 is bigger than negative 15. It's less negative, therefore it's bigger. 0 is greater than negative 15. 2 is greater than negative 15. Positive 100 billion is bigger than negative 15. So there are the possible answers for M. All right, now let's do another one. Can still clear fractions and decimals when you have inequalities. Just because it was 2 lessons ago doesn't mean you can't still do it. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this fraction, even though I technically don't have to because there's only one. Especially if there's 2 or more fractions in your inequality or equation, definitely clear them. So I'm just going to remind you real quick what clearing looks like. All right, the only thing is, see how that's a negative 1/3? I can actually clear the fraction to remove the negativeness, but when I do that, I have to do flippage, okay? Because again, I'm multiplying by a negative number, in this case negative 3, on all sides of the inequality, which means because I'm multiplying the whole thing by negative, I have to have flippage, okay? So here we go. I'm going to multiply negative 3 times negative 9 and get positive 27. And see how I did the flippage? I already did it right there. There we go. I did the flippage. It's there. Okay. So now negative 1/3 times negative 3, x. Don't forget the x. The x is still there. And then I have negative 3 times 6, which is negative 18. Clear out those fractions, and I'm left with 27 is less than 1x, or just x, plus negative 18. I'm going to add 18 on both sides, and I'm going to get 45 is less than x. And again, plug it in and check. Plug it in and check. Oh, and then graphing, okay? Now, 45 is less than x, which means x is greater than 45, which means x can be anything greater than 45. So I'm going to use my little arrow to show that, right? Beautiful. All right, now graphing. Remember that an open circle is less than or greater than, whereas a closed circle is less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. All right, just a reminder. You should know this, though. This is like totally like 6th grade math. Anyway, moving on. All right, so an expedition leader estimates that a group of snowshoers can carry less than 400. Let's pause this. Let's move back. You're not ready for that yet. Let's just talk about the equation first, or the word problem. An expedition leader estimates that a group of snowshoers can carry less than 550 pounds of food and equipment. The group must carry 336 pounds of equipment, as well as 25 pounds of food, because we don't want to starve while we're out snowshoeing, for each member of the expedition. What is the greatest possible number of people who can be in the expedition? Well, we're going to have the equipment plus the food per person times the number of people is going to be less than the total weight everybody has to carry. So let's go and fill in these blanks. The equipment, we already know, 336 pounds. Food, though, is 25 pounds per person, which we're just going to go ahead and make P for the number of people. Has to be less than the total weight altogether. So let's go ahead and set up our equation. 336 plus 25P is less than 550. Let's solve for P, the number of people. We're going to minus 336 on both sides. We're going to get 25P is less than 214, divide by 25, divide by 25. P is less than 8.56. But wait, Miss DH. Wait. Oh, here's the graph, by the way. There's a graph. But wait a second. Mathematicians don't cut people in half. That's inhumane. We don't do that just so that like 0.56 people can go on this expedition out in the cold. I don't like the cold, so I was going to call it a stupid expedition. But probably not stupid. Probably be fun. I just don't like the cold. Anyway, so I'm not going to cut a person in half just so that half of them can go on the expedition, or so that I have to feed half of them. So we're actually not taking 8.56 people because we're not going to cut a person in half just so half of them can go. We actually can only take 8 people at most. Okay, now we might be able to carry a little extra food for those 8 people, but we're never ever going to actually take 0.58 people. All right, it's not like money where we're going to round up so we can make a little extra. You know, it's not like that. We're just going to say, all right, only 8 people can go maximum. All right, it could be less than 8, and as you can tell by my arrow, I could probably even go into negative numbers, but why have an expedition if it's not going to have anybody go on it? All right, anyway, next question. Yep, pause. We're not ready for that yet. Okay, so there we go. All right, so commissions. A stereo salesperson earns a salary of $1,900 per month, plus a commission of 4% of sales. The salesperson wants to maintain a monthly income of at least $2,200. How much must the salesperson sell each month in stereo equipment to make this monthly income? Let's go ahead and set up our equation. We know that the salesperson makes a salary plus a commission, and that needs to be greater than the monthly income. All right? Because honestly, they could make $4,000 and it would be more than what the minimum amount is. All right? So the amount they make between the salary and the commission has to be greater than or equal to the minimum amount of money this person wants to make. So let's go ahead and fill in some blanks. We know that the salary is $1,900. We also know that the commission is 4% of sales, and we're going to make sales S. And remember, 4% as a decimal is 0.04, all right? And when you add the salary and commission together, it needs to be greater than the monthly income of that. So now we have our equation. $1,900 plus 0.04 times sales is greater than or equal to $2,200. Let's go ahead and make our table, solve for S. Right. I'm going to subtract $1,900 on both sides. So by subtracting $1,900 on both sides, I'm actually figuring out how much money this person needs to make off of commission alone. Because we don't want to factor in the salary into this because we know he's going to get that every time, or she's going to get this every time, whoever's selling this stereo equipment. So we need to get $300 out of this commission. So if they're getting 4% of that sales, it has to be greater than or equal to $300. So we're going to divide by 0.04, divide by 0.04. Sales has to be greater than $7,500. So that means that every month the salesperson needs to sell $7,500 in equipment for them to maintain their $2,200 monthly income. Now you know. All right, I'm done. Bye, guys.